Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarov's chess channel and welcome to my Basics in Chess series. So in this series we're following opening principles, middle game strategies and the endgame strategies. Today I wanted to talk about this psychology in chess again. Today I wanted to talk about a very important topic. It's really these problems of the attacker in the middle game. And I got this idea to make this video because of you. You posted me now many of your games. You asked me really to analyze them. You asked me really to give an opinion about your games. The problem is I cannot, of course, analyze and cover your games. That's really a tough thing for me to do. But I wanted to help you out with this particular video because I've noticed now in this beginner level. Maybe not this beginner level, well, when the player is around, I don't know, when we just started to play chess. But I noticed in this maybe 1800 level of ratings that players make a certain mistake all the time, and I think for these players it will be a good video in order to not make maybe the same mistakes. And the problem is what I've noticed that these players are trying to copying sometimes maybe a Magnus Carlsen game, maybe a Bobby Fischer's game, maybe a Garry Kasparov game. They saw really a Mikhail Tal great attacking game, for instance in the Yugoslav attack. Then you try to copy the Yugoslav attack, but the problem is that your opponent basically, it's unlikely that your opponent has really made the same move order, because you have to really calculate every new position. You have to really consider new options in the game. You cannot just repeat attacks, because if you do that, then of course your opponent could really play sort of a sideline and you will be on the losing side because you didn't notice the change of dynamics, for instance, in the game. So what I've also noticed is that players copying moves simply, trying just to maybe play this for instance, I'm repeating myself, for instance, use Yugoslav attack, but then they're just playing the same 10-11 moves. They really don't understand that the position has changed, that maybe there is a new weakness in the position, and then they lose the game and don't know why, because they felt they were on the attacking side. So I wanted to show you through some examples what's a bad attacking formation and what's really a good attacking formation, what is a good attacking choice, what is a bad attacking choice. I wanted to show you one of my games. It's really not a perfect game, it's really not even a special game, but I really have sometimes a tough time to find good examples in order to show you what I'm thinking of. So here is one of my games. I played here against a 2200 rated player. I opened with the move d4, d6, e4. I'm playing with white here. I'm gonna show you what's really the subject of this video. After e4 we have g6, knight to c3. After bishop to g7, now we have bishop to e3, and I'm preparing my 150 attack. I'm playing very often this 150 attack. The idea behind this 150 attack is to play queen to d2, playing a bishop and queen battery, trying to get this bishop off the board, playing h4, h5, then of course trade off bishops, get the queen somehow on the h file, and deliver checkmate on the h file. So it seems very easy, isn't it? So it's really a nice plan, but believe me, I think I have only won maybe 1% of these games by delivering checkmate in this particular. So you cannot play just chess in order to deliver checkmate. Chess is much more than that. You have to really create weaknesses. The main weaknesses, as I pointed many times in my videos, are weak squares and weak pawns. Chess games are won by creating weak squares and weak pawns, not by delivering checkmate in 15 moves. So you have to really understand the dynamics, the change of dynamics of the game, not only repeat the moves. As I said, I've noticed now many times in these games that you are trying maybe to get this great King's Indian attack, Barry attack, maybe here great attacks in the Greenfield, but every move is a new move, every move creates new positions. So here after the move knight to c6, I'm already not satisfied with my opponent's choice of openings, because this knight to c6 is an immediate idea to play the move e5. After I played, for instance, the move d5, he'll try his common King's Indian attack with the move f5. In order to prevent it, I played knight to f3, covering everything. First, this is really a battle against this e5 square. So you see, it's not so easy to create my plan h4 h5 immediately. So in the game my opponent played again a very aggressive move, bishop to g4, again with the idea to close the center, because this knight is of course controlling the e5 square. So in the game I played bishop to b5. Again, this move meets with the idea to first battle for the center. So you see, I haven't played already this h4 h5 idea. It has to be prepared. So don't copy just moves, don't play the same move order at the same time. As I said, new pawns, new moves are creating new positions. In the game a6, I took bishop takes, b takes c6, h3, after bishop to d7, now queen to d2. Now I'm trying again my queen and bishop battery attack. Knight to f6, here bishop to h6, castling, and now h4. In the game bishop to g4, my opponent is preventing this h5 idea, and now bishop takes g7, king takes g7, and now knight to g5. I'm not allowing my opponent to take out my knight. If he takes out my knight on f3, then after g takes f3, I wouldn't have any more the g pawn. I couldn't open the position in front of black's king, so that's why I had to get out with my knight. After h6, I played a counterattack, f3, after bishop to d7, and now e5. I created a counterattack. We have d takes e5, d takes e5, and now knight to g8. Here knight to e4, and now comes the critical moment of the game. That's what I meant. Now we have a new position in which basically my flank attack is a little bit splashed. It's not so dynamic anymore. So most of these players that I've mentioned in the beginning of this video would play something like queen to e3, trying still to create this flank attacks with some g4 h5 moves, trying really to get our 150 attack really great, get really a checkmate, really a tactical sequence. But here it's really time to stop. The dynamics of the game has changed. This is an active bishop. It will be traded for the knight. And basically, if we validate this position now, I'm satisfied with the outcome of my attack, because I have created a position in which my opponent has 3 weak pawns. I basically have none. So it's time to go into an endgame, and now I simply queenside castle. So I didn't continue to play on my flank attack with g4, g5, h5. I realized now that it's really time to stop here, to really stop my attack and go into favorable endgame. That's really this meaning of this video that I wanted to show you, because sometimes, as I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry a little bit, but I've noticed that for instance, you play the Yugoslav as I mentioned, and you just try to push, not recognizing this new structures, new structural changes, new dynamics in the game. Here, after castling, my opponent took. He was probably happy now that he got out of this attack, but after rook takes d2, here rook to d8, here rook to d1 was played. I simply played now healthy moves. I want to occupy, of course, the d file. In the game, rook takes d, rook takes, and now bishop to e6. I played knight to c5, again with the idea to create further weaknesses. And here, if I, for instance, take out this bishop on e6, then here after the potential f takes e6, my opponent would have really a bad pawn structure. I just want you to imagine, for instance, if black plays here rook to b8, after knight to e6, f takes e6, this will be a perfect position for me. So I don't need anything to do here. Basically, I would play something like knight to e4, knight to c5. And after this move, knight to c5, here if my opponent, for instance, tries to get out of this mess with bishop to c8, still it's a bad position, because I would have simply rook to d8 and his whole position would be paralyzed. So here, as I said, was the critical moment. That's what I meant in this video. Here, after this bishop to f5, most of us would try something like queen to e3, here maybe g4, h5, here you still have to take care of your opponents. For instance, your opponent could try rook to b8, attacking your b2 pawn, because you have to castle also somewhere. After potential queen to e3, it will be really hard to castle then queenside, because the queen is occupying the d file, and castle kingside is not an option here. So that's why here sometimes a simplification move is a good move. So I wanted to show you now also some bad examples how these attackers got into troubles, because they simply kept attacking. Here it was this common Yugoslav attack, and the main idea, as also in the Yugoslav attack, is to play bishop to h6, trading off the dark square bishops, and then maybe g4, h5, opening the position, get the queen on h6, and then of course deliver checkmate here on the h file. It seems easy, isn't it? But again, I'm pointing out sometimes the dynamic will change. You cannot just play attacking chess. Really, here after knight to b3, black tried queen to c7, bishop to d4, and now bishop to c6. And this was now again white's mistake. White rushed into the attack with g4. A better idea here is to play rook to e1, trying to get now into a positional game, because it's very hard now for black also to attack if he plays something like knight to d7 in order to make this knight active. Then of course white could always trade off the dark square bishop, and then maybe go into this common g5, g4, g5, or g4, 8, g takes h5 ideas. As I mentioned, this rook is still a little bit endangered. Maybe here a calm move would be much better, but white rushed here into the attack, and now black simply counterplayed with a great attack, e5, bishop to e3. Now we have h takes g, we have h5, still common theory, basically the common ideas. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's not common theory, it's this common attacking plan of the Yugoslav attack. After the move h5, white is trying to get this common Yugoslav attack, but it's really not possible, because white didn't realize this huge activity of black's pieces, rushed really into the attack. And now after g takes f3, we have h6, and now comes this counter attack, knight to e4. The problem is here, if you take like in the game was played h takes g7, but even if you play here knight takes e4, there is this tactical problem. We could take bishop takes e4 after h takes g7. We could simply take here rook to c2. Your opponent could take here maybe and take a queen after king to f8. Okay, even white has this possibility to trade off the queens, but now comes really a problem after rook to h2. You have to move the king on c1, and now after takes, rook to d1 is again a possibility. But now if we evaluate this position, 4 pawns here on the king side, I think, are unstoppable. So in the game, after the move knight takes e4, white didn't play knight takes e4. White tried h takes g7, but it was a mistake, because simply knight takes d2, knight takes d2, and now rook to g4, getting out with this rook. G takes f8, of course, not a problem. King takes f8, and now knight to b3. If we evaluate the position, black is much more stronger. Black won the game, of course, because white rushed into the attack. As I said, instead of this g4 move, maybe here rook to e1, simply normal developing move, not rushing into the attack. The attack will come if it's time for the attack, but here white got punished because of it. Here's another example. Again, we have the problems of the attacker. We saw maybe a great Garry Kasparov game. He crushed really, I don't know, maybe Hikaru Nakamura in a great King's Indian game, and we saw that maybe in one game Garry Kasparov has played a great sacrifice on e4. So we think, okay, it's time to sacrifice the knight on e4, and here black basically made a mistake. After bishop takes e4, black tried the common King's Indian idea to play the move f5, with the idea if the bishop retreats, then to lock the bishop with the move f4. But here after g takes f4, g takes f5, we have g takes f5, and now bishop to h6. So black didn't calculate this, rushed again into the attack. Here after f takes e4, we have rook to g1. Basically the game is over, because rook to f2 had to be played after trades of rooks. Now the queen comes very actively into the game, and here we have a really unpleasant position for black, because this knight combined with the queen will create too much danger here in black's position. So black lost, of course, the game. I wanted to show you now also in the last example, it's a game played by Bobby Fischer against Tigran Petrosyan, how basically chess is played. It's really a great game, instructive game, and you see maybe Bobby Fischer was one of the best attackers in chess, but still he won 19%, I think, of his games by simply applying normal healthy moves. Of course, we had these great tactical battles, great tactical sequences by Bobby Fischer or, for instance, by Mikhail Tal, but I guarantee you that they will won 90% of their games by applying simply healthy moves, really playing on this common ideas to create weaknesses, weak pawns, weak squares, getting maybe an outpost at night, a great positional game or something else. Not all of the games that Bobby Fischer has played are, of course, tactical brilliances. Let's see this game against a tough opponent, Tigran Petrosyan. We have e4, c5. I'm not going to explain now this game from this tactical point of view. I just wanted to show you how basically a chess game is won. So here after e6, d4, c takes d, knight takes d, a6, bishop to d3, and knight to c6, knight takes. We have b takes c6, and now comes the common idea. c4, knight to f6, and now we have a new position in which we have a d5 pawn which is isolated. It's really weakness, and Bobby here stops. Probably he thought, okay, here I have a weak pawn, I'm gonna simply play on that. This is really a weakness I can play on to, and now it's time to go into simplification. So here most of us will try bishop to g5, knight to c3, maybe some attacking possibilities, f4, trying to attack, but that's not how chess is played. Here after knight to c3, bishop to e7, and now queen to a4, a great simplification move after queen to d7. Here rook to e1, getting this rook on the e file, and now after queen takes a4, knight takes a4, Tigran Petrosyan thought, okay, great, I got out of this mess, I'm still with the same pieces on the board, maybe in the next couple moves I can castle, but for Bobby Fischer, this weakness, the weak isolated pawn, was simply enough. He won the game eventually. Let's go to the last stage, to the end game of this game. Here I wanted to point you out how problematic this isolated pawn get. Here Bobby Fischer has a 2 versus 1 situation on the queen side, has a bishop, 2 rooks, 2 active rooks, and in the game he won the game with really an endgame brilliancy. He played king to f3, f5, king to e3, and now he simply remaneuvered his king. Knight to b6 was played, and here after doubling up rooks, Bobby Fischer really won the game. I just pointed you out that here you see this pawn was still on the board, so this wasn't maybe a great tactical battle played by the legendary Bobby. It was really a simplification game, going into an endgame, playing calm, healthy moves, not rushing into attacks. Sometimes, of course, it's possible to create tactical brilliances, but as I said here in these two examples, players got punished because they rushed really into the attacks. Here black got really destroyed because of this f5 move. As I said here, in this position I really was satisfied with this outcome, that my opponent has here 3 weaknesses. What can I ask more? Now it's time to go into a favorable endgame, and I won the game eventually. So I hope that you realize these ideas. The psychological problem in chess is this, sometimes, that we watch too many games, we watch too many of these tactical brilliances, then we want to play like this. But as I said, chess is not won simply like that. Chess is won by simply weak squares and weak pawns. That are the most important things that you should always memorize and try to search in your opponent's position. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other basics in chess videos from the series. Here's the link, and you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen to you in a chess game. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.